Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Eldritch Stronghold. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Halloween. Today is spoiler week 2, day 2 for Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Today we actually have quite a bit to go over, so we'll try to go through them pretty fast. First one is Trumpeting Carnosaur. It's a 6 mana 7/6, 4 colorless, 2 red for a dinosaur with trample. When it enters the battlefield, you discover 5. You pay 3, 2 colorless, and a red. Discard him from your hand, and it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So it's 2 spells in one, where you can discard him to deal damage in the early game. Next card is the Deepest Growth, 5 mana God, 3 colorless, 2 green for a 6/5 trample. This is the last of the God cycle. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of the library, or your library. You may put a creature card and or a land card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom in any order. And when he dies, it returns to the battlefield tapped, transformed into this land right here, the Temple of Cultivation. It taps for a green, and then you can pay 2 and a green, tap it, and you can transform it back to the god, but you can only activate it if you control 10 or more permanents and only as a sorcery. Next card is this pretty sweet looking cat right here. Cutzel Malamet Exemplar. 1 colorless, a green and a white. For a cat warrior legendary creature, 3/3. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Whenever one or more creatures you control with power greater than its base power deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So it's kind of like a Grand Abolisher, a little weaker than that, but it also has the draw card on it, so I could see this in play a lot. And it's an uncommon. Pretty sweet. Lava Tongue, 1 black and a red for a Goblin Warlock. It's a 2/2 with Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, each opponent may discard a card or sacrifice a permanent, and then Lava Tongue deals 3 damage to each opponent who didn't do that. He's a legendary creature, so somebody might build around him. We'll skip the uncommon right there. We'll go to the Thousand Moon Smithy. 2 colorless and 2 white for a legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, create a white gnome soldier artifact creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifacts and or creatures you control. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may tap 5 untap artifacts and or creatures you control. If you do, transform Thousand Moon's Smithy. Turns into Barracks of the Thousand, a legendary artifact land, taps for a white. Whenever you cast an artifact or creature spell using mana produced by Barracks of the Thousand, create a white gnome soldier artifact creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifact and or creatures you control. I might throw this in a this might fit in the this mono white Oketra deck that I have, that's based around playing a lot of creatures and getting a lot of creatures for playing them creatures. So this goes along kind of with that theme. Next one, Corpse of the Lost, 2 colorless and a black. It's an enchantment. Looks like skeletons are getting some more support. That's pretty cool. Skeletons you control get +1/+0 and have haste. Whenever Corpse of the Lost enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 black skeleton pirate creature token. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, you may pay 1. If you do, return Corpse of the Lost to its owner's hand. So you can pick it up, get a skeleton pirate, and then they'll have haste. Probably put this in your skeleton tribal deck if you have one. Cutzel's Flanker. 2 colorless and a white for a 3/1 cat warrior with flash. When it enters the battlefield, you choose one. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature that left the battlefield under your control this turn. Or you gain 2 life and you scry 2, or you exile target player's graveyard. Mass Graveyard removal's pretty cool in some decks. Catcher decks that I mentioned earlier likes flash creatures. It likes ETBs, and this thing can become really big because if I've played like my white main line over and over again in that turn, this thing can come down pretty big. We'll go to this card right here. This card's pretty cool. Deep Fathom Echo, 2 colorless, a green and a blue. Merfolk Spirit for a 4/4. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, Deep Fathom Echo explores. Then you may have it become a copy of another creature you control until the end of the turn. It's a pretty cool clone, I think. It become a copy of anything, but then it keeps also exploring, getting new lands, or just keep getting bigger. This is another legendary creature, the Sun. Not sure how to pronounce that. The Sunborn. 2 colorless, a red and white, legendary creature, human soldier. Whenever it attacks, you may tap 2 untap artifacts you control, artifacts and or creatures you control. If you do, discover 3. So you gotta attack with them, tap 2 things, and then you get to discover for 3. It'd be a little bit better if you didn't have to attack, I think. Maybe you can make them indestructible, it'd be decent. This looks like another cave. Yep. Taps for colorless. Pay 1, tap it, search your library for basic land, put it on the battlefield. So that's not a bad like evolving wild type effect. Keeper of the Inner Sky, 1 white for a human soldier. As long as there are 3 or more counters on Keeper of the Inner Sky. It has flying and vigilance. Tap 3 untap artifacts or creatures you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on the Keeper of the Inner Sky. Then scry 1. Activate only as a sorcery. 1 drop that gets bigger over time. Alright, now we're jumping into Secret Lair Jurassic World cards that were spoiled. First one here on the left, Henry Wu, Engine Genetis. 1 black, 1 green, 1 blue for a human scientist, legendary creature, 1/4. Whenever Henry Wu and another human, Henry and other humans creatures you control have exploit. So that's the ability that when the creature enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice another creature to exploit it. And then whenever a creature you control exploits a non-human creature, you draw a card. If the exploited creature had power 3 or greater, then you create a treasure token. This thing looks pretty cool. People will definitely build around him. Grim Gigantosaurus. 5 colors, black and a green for a 10/10 dinosaur with monstrosity 10. This is an older ability, but it's scattered around a little bit now. 10 colorless, a black and a green. If you pay this, it gets 10 +1/+1 counters, but this one actually costs 1 less to activate for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. For each creature power 4 or greater your opponents control. So that's kind of cool design. And then when it becomes monstrous, you destroy all artifacts and creatures other than Grim Gigantosaurus. That's a cool ass dinosaur. Next card is a Savage Order, 2 colorless, 2 green for sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature with power 4 or greater. Search your library for a dinosaur creature card. Put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. It gains indestructible within a turn. A lot of dinosaurs have been errated lately, like last 6-line. So this could search out quite a lot of things. Or any changelings, anything like that. You can search out the Gigantosaur if you needed to. Spinning Dilophosaurus, 2 colorless and a black for a 3/2 dinosaur. When this enters the battlefield or attacks, you put a -1 counter onto 1 target creature. And then creatures you're putting control with -1 counters on them can't block. I love messing around with -1 counters. And having that negative effect on them is really cool. Cresting Monosaurus, 6 colorless, blue, dinosaur with a merge for 6 in a blue. You may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's mana value of the creature that you sacrificed. When this enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return each non-dinosaur creature to its owner's hand. We've seen this effect on like other whales and serpents and stuff, so it's fitting for the dinosaur that it is. Moving on to the commander cards that were spoiled today. Some more cool designs. We got Worn Power Stone, Stronic Resonator, Everflowing Chalice, Paleontologist Pickaxe for 2 colorless. You get an equipment. Whenever a creature attacks, you draw a card and then discard a card and equips for 1. It's pretty good to start off. Then you can craft it with 1 or more creatures, and then 5 colorless, and becomes a dinosaur headdress. When there's the battlefield attached to creature control, as dinosaur headdress becomes attached to a creature, choose an exile creature card used to craft dinosaur headdress. The creature is a copy of the last chosen card. Equips for 2. That's cool design. You could do a lot of wild things with that. Pretty much just you could exile your whole board under this to craft this, and then you could just pass this around, making other things copies of other things if you wanted. Alright, moving on to this next one. Looks like a mythic mana rock, 3 colorless. Taps that a mana of any color, but you can craft it with 2 that share a card type and then 6 colorless. So you could exile this and then 2 cards from among permanents you control or cards from your graveyard that share a card type and then 6 colorless. Crafts into the Apex of Observatory. When it enters the battlefield tapped, as it enters, choose a card type shared among 2 exile cards used to craft it. You can tap it. The next spell you cast this turn with the chosen type can be cast without paying its mana cost. Okay, so I see. So you could craft this with 2 really big creatures or really big whatever your deck's doing. And then you can tap this one, and then if it shares a type with that, you can just cast it for free. And it's 3 colors. I can see. I mean, you can put this really in anything. I don't see this being bad in a single deck, to be honest. I mean, it is a 3 mana rock, but just with that added benefit right there is not bad at all. Makes up for the 1 extra colors you'll have to pay. Now, this middle card I really like, and I might actually really build him. Reminds me of like Davy Jones. He's a fungus pirate. Xavier Saul, Infested Captain. He costs 3 mana, a black, a green, and a blue for a 3/3 human fungus pirate. You can tap him to remove a counter from another permanent you control. Then you populate. Activate only as a sorcery, and then you can sacrifice another creature to proliferate, and you can only activate as a sorcery. It's pretty much has like that Gave feeling, but it's different colors and it's a lot less wombo combo. But you could do like untap effects and stuff. And me and my buddy were talking about Intruder Alarm would be really nice in him, so I'm definitely going to be building him. Next card over here is Tessin Gnome Champion. 3 mana, a blue, a red, and a white for a legendary artifact creature gnome. So if you want to have a gnome commander, here's your chance. When Tessin or another double-faced artifact enters the battlefield under your control, mill 3 cards. You may put an artifact card from among them into your hand. Craft with 6 artifacts and 4 colorless. So it's a double-faced artifact tribal deck. So when this enters the battlefield, you mill a card and put an artifact. Okay, craft with 6. It becomes the Golden Gear Colossus. It's a 6/6 with Vigilance and Trample. And when it enters the battlefield or attacks, transform into 1 target double-faced artifact you control. Create 2/1/1 colorless gnome artifacts. So this just flips all your double-faced artifacts for you when it attacks and enters. I like to see what people do with that one. Contest of Claws. 2 mana, 1 colorless, and a green. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. If If excess damage was dealt this way, discover X where X is that excess damage. Really cool fight spell. They can also, the bigger your creature is, the more, the more expensive of a free spell you can get out the discover. Ore-rich stalactite, 1 colorless and 1 red for an artifact that taps for a red. So 2 mana rock and red. Spend this mana only cast instants and sorcery spells. Okay, so it's a little limited, but you can craft with 4 or more red instants or sorcery spells and 5 mana. Cosmium Catalyst is what it crafts into. For a colorless and a red, you can tap it, choose an exile card used to craft Cosmium Catalyst at random. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So, Mana Rock early turns into a free spell later. Altar of the Wretched, a colorless and a black for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a non-token creature. If you do, draw X, then mill X cards where X is that creature's power. This already goes good with a lot of things. You can craft with 1 or more creatures. Pay 2 colorless and 2 black to craft it, and then you can also pay 2 in black to return this from your graveyard to your hand. So it's recurable already. On the craft side, or what it gets crafted into, is Wretched Bone Mass. It's a star skeleton horror, and its power and toughness are each equal to the total power of exile cards used to craft it. So the more creatures you use with the craft side, the bigger this gets. And it has flying as long as so it has, so the normal, if it has flying, if one of the exile cards had flying, it has flying. Same as true for first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof. So build your own skeleton horror pretty much. I really like that in a lot of decks. Muldrotha. And it might even be good in this new fungus fire. Dude over here, the illustrious Wonderglyph, 4 colors and a white for a golem. It has Ascend. So if you have 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing. So they brought the City's Blessing back, at least in the commander decks. Other artifact creatures you control get +2/+2 as long as you have the City's Blessing. At the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 1/1 colorless gnome creature token. So at the beginning of each upkeep, that's really nice. 5 mana, you get a gnome each upkeep. Once you have 10 permanents, which is pretty easy, especially in commander where you can only play this, and then you'll get that buff, and then you'll get making 3/3s. This can snowball pretty good. Some special guest cards: Carnage Tyrant, Lord Windgrace, Rampaging Ferocidon, Pitless Plunderer, Mirari Weatherlight Duelist, Jargo, Mephidros Vampire, Box Topper, so it looks like a commander box topper, so that's, I'm not sure what that is. Lightning Greaves. Keep going. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot today. Tarian's Soul Cleaver, 1 colorless for a legendary artifact equipment. Creature has Vigilance. Whenever another artifact or creature is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on creature, and you equip it for 2. This thing's pretty nasty. In a sacrifice deck, you can make a creature even infinite if you have some kind of infinite sack shenanigans going on. And yes, I believe that's it. Okay, that's finally it. Alrighty, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a good rest of your Halloween, and see you tomorrow.